Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so I am incredibly excited to dive into this today because we're unpacking something that completely blew my mind when I first started digging into the source material. We're going to explore how a massive physical grid-scale battery is, well, actually, it's functioning like a Trojan horse. It's hiding this invisible, highly lucrative AI software network right in plain sight. It is a wildly brilliant pivot in a fiercely competitive industry, and we are going to break down exactly how it works layer by layer. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, let's look at this absolutely massive number, 866 megawatt hours. Now, that represents the staggering capacity of the brand new $220 million Goyder North project that just broke ground in South Australia. To put that scale into perspective, that single installation holds enough electricity to power about 400,000 households. But you know what? The truly explosive part of this whole story isn't actually in those numbers. Section 1. The Chinese threat, and why the battery battle was honestly lost from the start. So to really grasp the existential threat here, we kind of have to zoom out and look at the broader market. Tesla's energy division used to boast this huge 60% year-over-year growth, right? But then in the first quarter of 2026, their deployed battery storage actually dropped 15% year-over-year, down to 8.8 gigawatt hours. And that sudden drop caused Wall Street to start asking some very, very hard questions. Why did it happen? Well, because two Chinese companies, CATL and BYD, now control well over half of the entire global EV battery market. Because of that massive manufacturing scale, battery cells are rapidly becoming just cheap, ordinary commodities. Honestly, they're practically becoming as thrilling as a bag of cement. Tesla realized they simply could not win a long-term price war on generic battery cells. They had to execute a massive strategic pivot to survive. To avoid being swallowed whole by this commodity price war, Tesla started stacking 4 distinct layers of value. At the absolute bottom, you've got the generic battery cell, the basic commodity anyone can make. Then they bundle that up into the Megapack. Above that sits the new MegaBlock. But at the very top, the 4th layer, that's where you find the highly profitable, completely invisible lines of control software. Moving right along to Section 2, the MegaBlock revolution, a symphony of hardware out in the South Australian desert. At the heart of that Goyder North hybrid complex sits some seriously revolutionary hardware. It's surrounded by this premium 275 kilowatt transmission infrastructure, massive wind farms that are already spinning out hundreds of megawatts, and a planned addition of 600 megawatts of solar power. And right in the middle of all that is the world's first practical deployment of the MegaBlock. Each plug-and-play unit bundles 4 Megapack 3s together, giving you 20 megawatt hours of capacity at an incredible 91% efficiency. And it's tough, too, operating perfectly anywhere from a freezing -40 to a scorching +60 degrees Celsius. But the metric that really stunned me, the deployment speed. Tesla committed to deploying 1 gigawatt hour of storage in just 20 working days, literally compressing what usually takes 6 to 12 months down to under 4 weeks. That's not just an improvement, that is a total revolution in infrastructure speed. And when you compare the older Megapack 2 to this new MegaBlock, it's honestly like Apple-level design simplification. The engineers achieved 78% fewer electrical connections, which means drastically fewer failure points. It features 23% faster installation and incredibly a 40% reduction in overall costs. They took simplification to the absolute maximum. Section 3. The software secret. The invisible code generating the real profit. And guys, this is actually where the story takes a major plot twist. Because that physical MegaBlock we just talked about, with all its crazy specs, it's basically a Trojan horse. Tesla's true competitive moat, the layer where the massive profit margins actually live, is built entirely on 3 pieces of proprietary code. First, you have Autobidder, which generates automated electricity price forecasts every 15 minutes, constantly buying low and selling high. Then you have PowerHub, simultaneously tracking millions of distributed devices in real time. And finally, Opticaster, a machine learning engine optimizing energy outputs second by second. When you combine these 3 platforms, you create the largest virtual power plant in human history, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with absolutely no human intervention. And the crucial point to understand here is scale. On its own, a single home power wall holding 13.5 kilowatt hours is way too small to impact a national grid. But when Autobidder synchronizes 50,000 of those exact same home power walls across a single region, they instantly become a 675 megawatt hour asset that can discharge to the grid simultaneously. That is the exact equivalent scale of a mid-sized coal plant.
But, and this is a big but, with absolutely zero emissions and zero fuel costs. Section 4. The Old World Shift. Heavy industry crosses the tipping point.
So how did we get to this tipping point? Well, it was triggered by a fascinating domino effect. Take a heavy industry giant like BHP, one of the largest mining conglomerates on the planet. They need massive, uninterrupted 24/7 power for operations like their Olympic Dam copper mine. Even a single hour of blackout there means millions of dollars in losses. To secure that business, Tesla had to prove their reliability. And that started way back in 2017 when Elon Musk made his famous bet to build a Hornsdale battery in just 100 days. That bold project gave Tesla 8 straight years of real-world operational data on the grid. And it was exactly that unparalleled data that paved the way for the December 2025 Goyder North groundbreaking, which ultimately secured BHP's massive 10-year round-the-clock battery and wind contract starting in July 2029.
And let's be totally clear here. Heavy industry giants aren't walking away from coal for some good environmental PR. The decision is strictly economic. The volatile prices of imported fuel make battery-backed renewables a vastly superior financial choice. They're cheaper, they're more stable, and they carry zero future carbon policy risks. When notoriously cautious heavy industry pivots purely for the bottom line, well, that's a clear signal of a permanent market shift.
Section 5. The bottlenecks. The real-world hurdles threatening the timeline. Now, to keep this explainer totally objective, we have to acknowledge that transforming the global energy grid is incredibly difficult. There are real-world vulnerabilities here. First up, the Houston megafactory, which is meant to produce these megablocks, has been delayed to the second half of 2026, meaning schedule delays for customers are a very real risk. Second, there's their ongoing reliance on Chinese battery cells amid escalating US-China geopolitical tensions. That's a serious Achilles heel. And finally, industrial transformers historically have lead times of 2 to 3 years. While Tesla did start manufacturing them in-house back in September 2025 to try and bypass this, physically scaling up that production still takes significant time.
Yet, despite those very real physical bottlenecks, the financials tell a remarkable story. In the second quarter of 2025, Tesla Energy posted an all-time record gross profit of $846 million. Furthermore, in March 2026, they officially secured a license to sell utility power directly to households in the UK. These aren't just financial wins. They are concrete proof of a complete business transformation, from an automotive company into a full-fledged utility provider. Which brings us to a really vital question, and I want you to think about this for a second as we look at where this technology is heading. Who will Tesla's biggest customers actually be over the next 5 years? I mean, who actually needs a 20 megawatt-hour battery that can be installed in under a month? The answer is artificial intelligence. AI data centers require power that is perfectly stable and instantly scalable. Just consider this. A single ChatGPT response consumes 10 times the energy of a standard Google search. Tesla deliberately unveiled the MegaBlock at the September 2025 RE Plus event because their ultimate target market is no longer traditional utilities. No, they are targeting the massive power appetites of tech giants like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and xAI. What they are offering these tech giants is a closed-loop ecosystem. This is a unified global network stretching all the way from residential rooftop solar and power walls right up to grid-scale megablocks, all flawlessly controlled by a single proprietary AI software platform. This is a massive 8-year software moat. Competitors like CAT, BYD, and Fluence might build fantastic hardware, but they simply cannot replicate this integrated software ecosystem within the next 5 years. And that leaves us with one final, deeply provocative question to chew on. As massive global competitors scramble to build their own software platforms and try to unify their hardware, can anyone catch up to an AI energy mode that took an entire decade to quietly build? It's a fascinating paradigm shift in global infrastructure. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today, and keep questioning how the invisible systems all around us are truly built.